If you think he's over you, you're wrong. Because people don't forget the one who taught them what real love feels like. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something today. Sometimes life makes you question your worth. Sometimes someone walks away and you start thinking you didn't matter. But hear me clearly. If you think he's over you, you're wrong. Because you don't walk away from a soul that touched your spirit. You don't forget the person who stood by you when life cracked open. You don't erase the one who healed wounds they never caused. Real love is not a moment, not an emotion that flashes and fades. It is a force, a quiet storm that moves through the heart and rearranges everything inside it. When someone experiences authentic love, the kind that brings peace where there was chaos, clarity where there was confusion, and warmth where there was distance, it leaves an imprint that time cannot wash away. People often underestimate the emotional architecture real love builds within them. It shapes habits, rewires thoughts, and penetrates memories more deeply than they realize. Even when life changes direction, even when pride interferes or distance grows, that imprint doesn't disappear. It stays living quietly beneath the surface, reminding him of the one person who loved him in a way the world rarely offers. Real love leaves a mark because it teaches you something you didn't know before. Maybe it teaches you patience. Maybe it teaches you what consistency feels like. Maybe it teaches you how real affection should be delivered gently, honestly, without competition or confusion. When someone receives that kind of emotional education, it becomes part of his internal system. He starts comparing every new connection to the depth of what he once had, not intentionally. It just happens, naturally, silently. And the truth is, comparisons always reveal what the heart misses the most. The mind tries to reason, tries to justify new choices, but the heart remembers the one who showed it truth, safety, and meaning without having to say much at all. The reason real love can't be forgotten is because it changes the way a person sees themselves. It's not just about the love you gave him. It's about the version of himself he became when he was with you. Maybe he felt more grounded, more seen, more respected, more understood. Maybe you brought out a strength he forgot he had. Real love elevates a person emotionally, spiritually, even mentally. When someone helps you grow, you don't simply erase them. You can't erase the person who helped you see your own potential. That kind of love becomes a mirror, one that reflects who he truly was underneath all the noise, fear, and pressure. And that reflection stays with him long after you're gone. People think memories fade quickly, but memories tied to emotion last a lifetime. Every meaningful laugh, every deep conversation, every moment he felt safe with you imprinted itself on his senses. He remembers the sound of your voice when you calmed him down. He remembers the way your presence softened his edges. He remembers the way you made stress feel lighter, pain feel temporary, and confusion feel manageable. Real love attaches itself to the senses, the feel, the tone, the rhythm, the comfort. And once the heart knows what stability feels like, chaos becomes harder to tolerate. Once the heart experiences real love, temporary affection no longer satisfies. Another reason real love cannot be replaced because it comes from authenticity, something rare in a world full of pretense. You loved him without forcing him to change. You loved him through moments he didn't love himself. You gave him a safe place when life demanded too much from him. You saw him. You understood him. And you stayed consistent in ways others never managed to be. You didn't mask your intentions, play games, or offer half-hearted care. You were genuine. You were present. You were emotionally real in a world that teaches people to hide. That level of authenticity isn't something he can find just anywhere. And deep down, he knows it. Real love becomes unforgettable because it exposes what fake love looks like. Once he has experienced loyalty, sincerity, and emotional safety with you, it becomes impossible for him to settle for less. He may try. He may distract himself. He may force himself to move on with someone new. But eventually, he will realize that not everyone loves with the kind of purity you carried. Not everyone listens with intent. Not everyone supports without condition. Not everyone loves without insecurity. And that realization will repeat itself in every new connection he attempts to form. Because once a person has tasted real love, everything else feels shallow, temporary, and incomplete. People rarely reveal what they feel in the moment. They hide behind masks, behind distractions, behind routines meant to convince the world and themselves that they're fine. When someone walks away and pretends to move on quickly, it's almost never genuine. It's a performance, a shield, a survival mechanism. He may act like your absence barely touches him, but performance collapses in silence. When the noise fades, when the friends go home, when the notifications stop, that's when real emotions rise up, and silence, unlike people, never lies. In the quiet, his heart tells the truth he refuses to speak out loud. You see, people pretend to move on because confronting their feelings is harder than running from them. It's easier for him to scroll through life, stay busy, or talk to someone new than to admit that losing you left a bruise deeper than he anticipated. Pride convinces him he has something to prove. Ego whispers that showing pain is weakness. But silence strips away ego. Silence removes the audience. Silence forces him to feel every emotion he's been trying to bury. And buried emotions aren't gone. They're simply waiting for the moment to resurface. That moment almost always comes when the world gets quiet enough to hear what's happening inside. He might think ignoring his feelings will make them disappear. But feelings don't dissolve, they ferment. They grow stronger in the dark. In silence, he's left with the thoughts he's been avoiding. He remembers your voice, your presence, the way you made things easier without trying, the way your support used to soften the rough edges of his days. He might try to push those memories away, but silence keeps bringing them back. And not softly, loudly. Silence has a way of replaying every moment he took for granted, every smile he didn't appreciate, every comfort he didn't fully understand until it was gone. People behave differently when no one's watching. During the day, he might look put together, smiling, working, joking, acting like everything is under control. But at night, that facade cracks. The quiet hours hold the truth. That's when memories creep in. That's when regret sinks its teeth in. That's when he feels the weight of everything he tried to ignore. You become the thought he can't escape, the name he doesn't say out loud but still feels in the center of his chest. The silence reminds him of what he lost, not because he wants to suffer, but because real connections continue talking long after the relationship ends. It's almost ironic, the louder someone pretends, the more broken the silence becomes. The more he posts, parties, or laughs, the more obvious it becomes that he's trying to outrun something that lives inside him. Because if someone is truly over you, they don't need to prove it. They don't need an audience. They don't need emotional noise. True peace doesn't perform. True healing doesn't broadcast. But when he fills his life with distraction after distraction, it's a sign that silence is terrifying for him, because silence exposes everything he's not ready to accept. And acceptance requires courage he isn't ready to face yet. Eventually, everyone confronts their silence. He can run from it for a while, but he can't run forever. The truth is simple. If you didn't matter, he wouldn't feel anything when the world grows quiet. If he had truly moved on, silence would be peaceful, not painful. But when silence feels heavy, when it feels loud, when it feels crowded with memories, that's proof he's still connected to you in ways he tries to hide. Silence doesn't reveal lies. Silence reveals love, regret, longing, and truth. And that is why, no matter how much he pretends, silence always exposes what the heart refuses to forget. Value is not something a person recognizes immediately. It's something that reveals itself over time, especially after it's gone. When you were in his life, you gave him a kind of emotional steadiness he didn't even realize he needed. You made the hard days feel lighter and the overwhelming moments feel manageable. You added clarity to chaos just by being present. That kind of value cannot be measured in words, gifts, or gestures. It's felt deep in the bones, in the space where someone's spirit rests. And when that value disappears, it leaves a void that nothing else can fill the same way. He may not have seen it clearly before, but life has a way of teaching lessons through absence. And one of the strongest lessons is that genuine value never fades from memory. Peace is even harder to forget. The world rarely gives people peace anymore. Stress, noise, pressure, expectations, they all take a toll on a person's mind and heart. But you were a calm in his storm. You were the person he could talk to without needing to pretend. You made honesty comfortable, vulnerability safe, and silence warm instead of uncomfortable. You gave him a sense of inner balance he didn't know he was missing. When someone experiences peace with a person, that peace becomes a form of emotional oxygen. And once they breathe it, everything else feels suffocating. That's why your presence stays in his thoughts, because you were one of the few places where he felt mentally unburdened, emotionally grounded, and genuinely understood. Loyalty is another kind of rarity, and rarity always becomes unforgettable. You didn't just stand beside him. You stood with intention, with commitment, with a sincerity that isn't easy to replace. You didn't give up on him when he was difficult. You didn't question him when life got complicated. You stayed when others would have walked away. Loyalty like that is something a person remembers long after the relationship ends. It echoes in their decisions. It influences how they trust others. It becomes the standard by which they measure future connections. Because loyalty isn't loud. It's consistent. It's shown through actions, through patience, through the quiet reassurance that you weren't going anywhere. When that kind of loyalty leaves, the world suddenly feels less stable, less safe, less soft, and he cannot forget the person who gave him that kind of unwavering support. You also brought emotional intelligence, another form of value many people don't appreciate until it's gone. You understood him even when he didn't have the words. You sensed his moods, read between the lines, cared in ways he didn't even have to ask for. That kind of intuitive connection is powerful. It makes someone feel seen on a deeper level, a level most people never reach. After you, he'll notice the difference. He'll notice when someone doesn't listen the way you did, when someone doesn't pay attention the way you did, when someone doesn't offer comfort with the same tenderness. The smallest gestures, the ones you thought were normal, will become reminders of what he lost, and those reminders will follow him long after he tries to move on. The truth is, people don't forget the one who stood by them when they weren't at their best. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe he was uncertain. Maybe he was carrying weight he didn't know how to explain. And still, you were there. Your consistency during his instability is something his heart will always remember. When someone looks back on their life, they don't remember who smiled during their victories. They remember who stayed during their storms. You stayed. You offered stability during his chaos. You believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. And no matter how far he runs, no matter how much time passes, the heart always remembers the one who held it with care during its most fragile moments. And the most unforgettable part, you brought these things without asking for anything in return. Your value wasn't conditional. Your peace wasn't transactional. Your loyalty wasn't temporary. You loved in a way that made him feel safe, protected, appreciated, and emotionally whole. Not many people love like that. Not many people even know how. The rarity of your energy, your heart, your intentions, that's what makes you unforgettable. That's why he'll never truly move on from you, because people don't forget someone who brought value to their life. They spend the rest of their story realizing how much that value meant. One of the greatest mistakes people make is tying their worth to how someone else sees them. When he became unsure, distant, or confused, you may have started questioning yourself, wondering if you weren't enough, wondering if something was wrong with you. But his confusion was never a reflection of your value. It was a reflection of his own internal battle. People project their insecurities, their fears, and their doubts onto the closest person to them. You happened to be the one standing nearest when his feelings became louder than his clarity. That doesn't mean you were the problem. His confusion came from what he couldn't understand within himself, not from anything lacking within you. You have to remember this. A person who is emotionally unstable will often mistake their uncertainty for a flaw in the connection, when in reality the connection is fine. It's the person who isn't. His inability to choose, commit, or appreciate had nothing to do with your character. It had everything to do with his readiness, his maturity, and his capacity to handle something real. Real love requires strength, consistency, and emotional responsibility. If someone hasn't developed those qualities, they will naturally struggle, panic, or pull away. His confusion wasn't about you. It was about the gap between the love you offered and the stability he lacked. Your worth is not negotiable. It doesn't rise or fall based on whether someone is wise enough to recognize it. The sun doesn't become less bright because someone closes their eyes. A diamond doesn't lose value because someone doesn't understand how rare it is. Your worth remains intact, untouched, regardless of who acknowledges it. His confusion may have caused him to overlook your beauty, your loyalty, your heart, but that doesn't mean those qualities disappeared. You are still the same strong, loving, valuable person you were before he stepped into your life, and you remain valuable after he stepped out. His confusion cannot alter your truth. Often people in confusion sabotage the very thing they need most. Maybe he pushed you away because he didn't know how to receive love without doubting it. Maybe he questioned your intentions because he didn't believe he deserved something pure. Maybe he pulled back because the connection felt too real, too vulnerable, too honest, and he wasn't used to that. People who are confused internally will look for problems externally. When he couldn't make sense of his own emotions, he convinced himself there had to be an issue somewhere, and the easiest place to blame is the relationship. But emotional confusion is an internal storm, not a reflection of your worth. Your value doesn't change just because someone else couldn't rise to the level of love you offered. You were steady, loyal, present, and genuine, and that's more than most people ever receive. You didn't lose anything. He did. He lost someone who cared, someone who understood him, someone who showed up, someone who valued him in ways he couldn't even value himself. And the thing about confused people is this: once clarity comes, regret follows. But even if clarity never comes for him, you must never let his uncertainty become your insecurity. You must never let his hesitation make you question your strength or your heart. The truth is simple. Your worth is determined by who you are, not by who walks away. You were whole before him, and you will remain whole after him. Your love, your presence, your compassion, those things come from a place of inner richness. His confusion cannot diminish that. It cannot rewrite your identity. It cannot devalue your soul. You are not defined by someone else's inability to see you clearly. You are defined by your authenticity, your resilience, your depth, and your capacity to love, even when it wasn't reciprocated the way you deserved. His confusion may have blurred his vision, but it does not change your truth. You were never the problem, and your worth was never in question. People often assume that because someone isn't speaking, they aren't feeling. But silence doesn't mean absence. It often means restraint. And restraint often comes from pride. He may not reach out. He may not admit what you meant to him. He may act like he's moved on. But the truth is, he remembers every single thing you gave. He remembers your patience during his difficult days. He remembers your support when he felt lost. He remembers the way you stayed even when he didn't know how to show gratitude. Pride may keep his mouth closed, but it can't erase the memories you engraved into his heart. Those memories follow him everywhere, whether he wants them to or not. People like him don't forget the little things. The details you didn't even realize mattered. He remembers the way your voice softened when you spoke to him. He remembers how you comforted him without making him feel weak. He remembers the way you celebrated his wins, even the small ones. He remembers how you listened when no one else cared to. The smallest gestures often hit the deepest, and those moments are etched into his memory with more power than he'll ever admit. Pride might make him act indifferent, but his silence is filled with more remembrance than he lets on. And then there are the sacrifices, the things you did that he didn't appreciate at the time but thinks about now. The love you gave freely, even when you were tired. The understanding you offered when he was distant. The faith you had in him when he doubted himself. Those sacrifices don't disappear from someone's mind. They come back, they replay, they haunt, especially when he encounters someone new who cannot match the depth, devotion, or emotional intelligence you gave so naturally. Pride may tell him not to acknowledge it, but the heart keeps score. And his heart remembers everything you poured into him. He remembers the way you made him feel safe. That kind of emotional safety is rare, and once someone experiences it, it becomes a benchmark they unconsciously search for in every connection that follows. You were a comfort he didn't earn but still received. You were understanding he didn't ask for but desperately needed. You were the calm he didn't know how to create for himself. And no matter how much pride tries to push those memories down, they surface, especially in moments of loneliness, doubt, and quiet. The human heart can only suppress truth for so long before it rises back up with clarity. Pride often disguises itself as strength, but in reality it is fear. He may stay silent not because he's over you, but because he's afraid to confront the depth of what he feels. He may think reaching out makes him vulnerable. He may believe admitting he remembers everything makes him look weak. But weakness is not in loving. Weakness is in pretending you don't. His pride is a shield he uses to protect himself from accountability, from regret, from the possibility of rejection. But even behind that shield, he carries the imprint of everything you gave him. He may not say it, but he feels it. He may not call, but he thinks about it. He may not apologize, but he knows he should. And the most undeniable truth is this: the mind forgets details, but the heart never forgets impact. You impacted him. You shaped him. You softened parts of him that were hardened long before you arrived. You gave him experiences that no amount of pride can erase. He remembers the love he didn't reciprocate properly. He remembers the care he didn't match. He remembers the loyalty he didn't honor. And even if he never speaks it, even if he keeps pretending, even if his pride holds him back, the truth remains the same. He remembers everything. When something feels like home, it stops being just a relationship. It becomes a foundation, a place the soul recognizes even when time and distance try to erase it. You weren't just someone he talked to, you were someone he felt safe with, someone he could breathe around, someone whose presence made the world feel less heavy. That kind of connection becomes a part of a person's emotional DNA. No matter where life takes him, no matter who he tries to love next, nothing feels quite the same because real emotional comfort can't be duplicated. It's not a routine. It's not a habit. It's not a phase. It's home. And the heart always remembers the way home feels. Home is where a person feels understood without explanation. You didn't need long speeches or dramatic moments to get him. You understood him in the pauses, the silences, the unspoken worries he carried behind his eyes. You didn't judge his fears, you softened them. You didn't run from his flaws, you showed him they didn't make him unlovable. You didn't demand perfection, you embraced him as he was. Those are the kinds of experiences that settle deep into someone's spirit. And once a person has felt that level of safety, anything less feels unstable. Anything less feels temporary. He may search for distractions, but he will not find the sense of belonging that you gave him. When someone feels at home with you, moments become memories, and memories become emotional anchors. He doesn't forget the late night talks that brought him peace. He doesn't forget the way your presence eased his anxiety. He doesn't forget the way your laughter made him feel alive again. These memories aren't fragile. They're rooted. They stay even when he pretends they don't. New experiences can't erase old truths. They only highlight the difference. And every time he encounters something unfamiliar, uncomfortable, or emotionally distant, he subconsciously compares it to the warmth you once gave him. That comparison isn't something he can control. It's something the heart does naturally. Home is also the place where someone feels strongest. You didn't just make him feel loved, you made him feel capable. You encouraged him, believed in him, supported him, and stood beside him in ways that reminded him of his potential. Your presence gave him courage he didn't realize came from you until it was gone. That's the thing about home. It doesn't just comfort you. It builds you. It strengthens you. And once someone loses that source of emotional strength, they begin to understand how vital it was. He may have taken it for granted while it was his reality, but now that it's gone, he feels the absence like a missing piece of himself. Many people assume moving on is a decision, but in truth, it's a process, and the heart cannot be forced into forgetting. Especially not when the connection felt natural, effortless, and deeply grounding. You were his calm. You were his place of rest. You were his emotional home, even if he was too unprepared or too unsteady to value it properly. He may try to build a new life, form new relationships, or convince himself he's fine, but there will always be moments, quiet, reflective, honest moments, when he feels the weight of what he lost, because the heart measures connection by emotion, not by time. And what he felt with you was real. And here is the truth he'll never admit. People don't move on from the one who felt like home. They adapt. They distract themselves. They continue with life. But deep down, the memory stays, the longing stays, the emotional imprint stays. He may try to silence it, but the heart does not forget where it felt the safest. It does not forget the person who brought warmth into its coldest places. It does not forget the one who felt familiar in a world full of uncertainty. And no matter how far he goes or how long he stays silent, the truth remains. The heart always remembers its home. So hear me clearly. You were never forgettable. You were never replaceable. And you were never just someone he used to know. You were the one who brought peace into his chaos, value into his life, and truth into his heart. And even if he walks around acting unbothered, even if he hides behind pride, even if he convinces the world he's moved on, the truth lives in the places he doesn't talk about. The truth lives in the quiet. The truth lives in the memories that won't leave him alone. You were the kind of love that changes a man. The kind of love that stays. The kind of love he can't outrun, no matter how far he goes. So don't you question your worth. Don't you shrink. Don't you forget who you are, because the truth is simple. He didn't move on. He just lost someone he thought he'd never lose. And life has a way of making people face what they walked away from. Your story isn't over, but his chapter with you. That's the one he'll reread for the rest of his life.